Today, we're going to journey to a really fascinating intersection, a place where ancient scripture and modern science seem to meet. We're going to explore this incredible idea that the Qur'an, a text revealed over 1400 years ago, might just contain descriptions of our world that science is only now starting to catch up with.
So let's just think about this for a second. What if a book from the 7th century held descriptions of our universe? Deep secrets that we've only been able to uncover with our most advanced technology in the last 100 years. Well, that book is the Qur'an, and that's exactly what we're going to look into.
You know, a lot of us grow up hearing that science and religion are on opposite teams. Science is over here with all the facts and hard evidence about how the universe works, and religion is way over there, and that's just about belief. But what if that's not the whole story? What if they aren't actually fighting at all, but are in some kind of profound conversation?
Okay, so from an Islamic perspective, this whole idea makes sense, because the Quran doesn't present itself as a science textbook. That's not its goal. Instead, it calls itself a book of signs. Think of them like cosmic breadcrumbs, little clues scattered all throughout the natural world that are meant to make us stop, look around, and just think.
This verse from the Qur'an really lays the groundwork for everything we're talking about. It's basically saying, hey, look around you. The universe is packed with clues, with signs, but they're for people who actually take the time to reflect on it all. It's the difference between just looking at the world and truly seeing it.
All right, this is where it gets really interesting. We're going to dig into 5 specific and pretty astonishing examples where verses in the Quran seem to describe things that scientists would only discover centuries and centuries later.
Okay, first up, the expanding universe. Let's travel back in time for a second. For pretty much all of human history, people looked up at the stars and thought, well, that's it. It's static, it's fixed, it never changes. That was the common wisdom for thousands of years.
But then, boom, the 20th century hits. Scientists like Edwin Hubble, using these brand new powerful telescopes, figured out something that shattered that old idea. The universe is not static at all. It's actually expanding. All the galaxies are rushing away from each other, kind of like dots on a balloon that's being blown up.
Now, here's where it gets wild. Listen to this verse from the Quran. We built the heaven with power, and indeed, we are expanding it. The Arabic here is very specific, and it clearly says expanding it. Just let that sink in. 1400 years before we had the technology to even imagine this book describes an expanding universe. It's pretty mind-blowing.
So we've gone from the biggest thing imaginable, the entire cosmos, and now we're going to zoom all the way in to the very beginning of a single human life. The science of embryology, studying how we develop in the womb, is a pretty new field, but the Quran talks about it in some really specific stages.
So check this out. The Quran describes our development starting from a drop. Then it becomes an alaka, a really interesting word that means a leech-like clot, or something that clings. After that, it becomes a mudga, which means a chewed lump of flesh. And what's just incredible is how this lines up with what we know now. The clinging clot sounds a lot like the embryo implanting itself in the uterine wall. And the chewed lump? If you look at an embryo at the somite stage, it literally has grooves that look just like teeth marks. The accuracy is stunning.
All right, example number 3. Let's talk about mountains. When you look at a mountain, what do you see? Just a giant, beautiful piece of rock, right? But what if they do more than just sit there looking majestic?
Modern geology tells us something amazing. Mountains aren't just sitting on the surface. They have huge roots that go deep into the ground, kind of like a tent peg. And these pegs help anchor the Earth's crust, holding the tectonic plate steady and keeping the planet from shaking too much.
So, with that image of a tent peg in your mind, listen to this. The Quran describes mountains as pegs that were placed firmly on the earth so it wouldn't shake. Again, the language is just so precise. It's an ancient description that perfectly captures a geological function we've only recently figured out.
Okay, let's leave the mountains and head out to sea for our 4th example. You'd think the ocean is just one big body of water, where everything mixes together, right? Well, it turns out it's not quite that simple.
Oceanographers have found these amazing places, like where the Atlantic Ocean meets the Mediterranean Sea. And because they have different temperatures, different salt levels, and different densities, they don't mix. It's like there's an invisible wall right between them.
And you can probably guess what's coming next. The Quran describes this exact thing. It says, He released the 2 seas meeting side by side. Between them is a barrier which they do not transgress.
I mean, it's a perfect description of something you could never see with the naked eye from a boat in the 7th century.
All right, our fifth and final example. Let's talk about iron. It's everywhere, in our buildings, our cars, even in our blood. But have you ever stopped to ask, where did all this iron actually come from? Well, modern science has a pretty epic answer. Iron wasn't made on Earth. Our planet simply isn't hot enough. The only place in the universe where iron can be created is inside the superhot core of giant stars. And when those stars die and explode, they blast that iron across the universe. And eventually it rained down on our planet in meteorites.
So basically, all the iron on Earth literally came from outer space. Now get this. In the chapter of the Qur'an called the Iron, a verse states that iron was sent down, not created on Earth, but specifically sent down. That simple phrase perfectly captures this cosmic origin story that we've only just pieced together.
Okay, so we've looked at the expanding universe, embryology, mountains, oceans, and iron. It's a lot. But it leads to a bigger question. So what? Is this just a list of cool ancient trivia?
And the answer, from the Islamic perspective, is a clear no. It's really important to remember that the Quran isn't trying to be a science textbook. Its main purpose is spiritual and moral guidance. These scientific parallels are seen as just that, signs, pointers. They're meant to spark a sense of wonder and awe, to get you to think about the bigger picture.
So what does this mean for us right here, right now? Well, there are a few things we can take away. First, maybe we can all take a little more time to just reflect on the amazing world we live in. Second, it's a huge encouragement to always be learning, to seek out knowledge. And third, for believers, seeing these connections can serve to make their faith even stronger.
And this idea of seeking knowledge is just baked into the very foundation of Islam. It's so fascinating when you realize that the very first word revealed to the Prophet Muhammad wasn't pray or believe. It was one simple, powerful command, Iqra, which means read. The entire journey begins with an instruction to learn.
And that really is the perfect place to leave things. It makes you wonder, doesn't it? If we can see these connections with what we know today, what else is waiting in there? As science pushes forward, as we learn more and more about our universe, what other signs, what other layers of meaning might suddenly click into place? What will we discover next?